Morning at NTV, we're live from Kampala Serena Conference Center. I'm Andrew Chamagero, and a lot is happening. Now, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic is global. Uganda and other emerging economies have imposed the various lockdown measures to prevent uncontrollable spreading of the virus and turning the COVID-19 crisis into a humanitarian crisis. These lockdowns have a profound impact on the lives of hundreds of millions of vulnerable people. Many of them live on low income and rely on a daily earning to survive. They see their income sharply decrease or even disappear without financial buffers or other safety measures to fall back on. The conversation on the post-COVID-19 has largely entered on what doing business will be like for companies and small companies that have not been working for over 36 days. To talk to us about this, we have assembled a team of experts on the front line of this fight for financial inclusion and small businesses. And these are the Right Honorable Amelia Chambadi, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, who joins us in studio. And then on Zoom, we have Mr. Dimitri, the country head of the United Nations Capital Development Fund in Uganda, Mr. Samuel Ochaya, the head of Financial Inclusion at Leshego, and Ms. Rashmi Pila, the Executive Director of Financial Sector Deepening Uganda, Mr. Colin Agabalinda, the Sacco Development Manager at the government's Project for Financial Inclusion in Rural Areas, and lastly is Mr. Innocent Kawoya, the CEO of the Digital Impact Awards. Later, we'll be joined by the State Minister of ICT, Honorable Peter Ogwang. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me morning at NTV, and it's an honor to have all of you.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, Honorable Minister, I'll start with you. First things first, did you return the money?
Yes, I did.
You returned the money?
I returned the money through the bank, and the bank wired it directly back to Parliamentary Commission.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're safe. Now, the challenges facing financial inclusion due to COVID-19 pandemic, it's quite unprecedented. How do we as a community respond to ensure vulnerable households and businesses are resilient and they can recover?
Yes, good morning. We all know very well that COVID-19 has had an immense impact on our economy.
Yes.
And as you remember, our economy was very strong. Where do I look? Our economy was very strong, but it might drop down from 6% to 3.5%. And you can see even from the exports. I mean, we were exporting 383.6 in January. But by February, it had gone to almost 352, and it has gone further, definitely, because we have not got our figures yet for April. And the imports were 511, they've gone down, 711, they've gone down to 511. But what I'm trying to bring out is that, of course, everybody has been affected. Our economy is premised on micro, small and medium enterprises. As much as the medium enterprises, meaning factories and all those, have been staggering to work, definitely they have challenges, especially raw materials, because they used to get their raw materials from China and other countries. But although they've been staggering, but what has been affected most is the small and the micro and small, the low income earners. Of course, they are raising challenges like rent, loans, cost of utilities. But if you're not working, sitting at home for almost a month and a half. So what I feel is that we need to give a more optimistic picture. I know we're going through all this, but as government has started opening up, we feel that everybody will be able to get back to work. But how do they re-access or re-penetrate?
Back to the market.
Back to the market. Number one is, allow me to talk about some of the lessons, what we have learned now, that as much as some of these businesses are small and micro and small, most of them are informal.
Yeah, true.
So we feel that we need to formalize
Businesses.
these businesses. I know it's a process, but we can fast track it in order for them to benefit from some of the programs that government has in place. And in this, I'm calling out to the URSB to make sure that they're accessible, make sure that their costs, or even offer free registration of some of these sectors. What is government going to do during this time? Because
the president has refused to talk about the
that's
economy.
what we're looking at. Government has set up an economic team. An economic team to look at the post-COVID economic recovery. And it has been, we have been looking at all the clusters, looking at ways and means of addressing their survival. And what we are starting with as government is first of all engaging the banks, because most of them have got loans. But what we have discovered is some of these loans are with the informal group. They're with them. Some of them are not directly in the government structures. I mean, in the business commercial bank structures. But we're engaging the Bank of Uganda, and Bank of Uganda has brought down the CBR. So commercial banks, some of them have already started responding by calling out, calling in their customers to come and renegotiate their loans, so that they could give favorable terms or incentives. Revenue, but of course, some are not registered. That is also a challenge. Revenue Authority is offering amnesty, and also has decided to reschedule some of the payments, stagger them, or find ways and means of offering amnesty to them. But still, it all depends on you, members of the private sector, is that you also have to take the initiative to be able to tell them, to tell Revenue Authority what your challenges are, where your goods are, because some of them are not. But now what government is going to do, it is looking so much. We have discovered that there are so many innovations now. That is another level I will talk about. Innovation, especially scientists. Yes. And it is going to support these scientists. Some of them were just there in the academia. And there has been a de-link between the academia, and there's been a very broad de-link between the academia and government. So what government is saying, come, and we have started registering them, and we have discovered there's so many innovations out there. Then when you're looking at capitalization of UDC and UDB, definitely UDB has been factoring, it's focusing only on medium enterprises. But now we're saying, come down and look at this micro and small enterprises. But of course, all this, we need to know who you are. Who are you? Registration is key. Yes, registration is key. Okay. Value addition, equipment for MSMEs, especially those who are in agriculture, agribusiness. There is also focus on that. Agriculture, we have to have a special fund. For agriculture. For agriculture.
Thank you that you've handled that. Just to get in this here, Mr. Samuel Ochaya, I'll just start off with you here. You work for an institution that is one of the biggest lenders to government employees. But beyond lending, how are you ensuring that those people, that these people are involved in the financial sector? We need to understand what are your strategies are you using to make sure that it's spilling over safe and sound and it's balanced?
Thank you very much, Andrew. Good morning to everybody. Good morning to the listeners. That's a very pertinent question. We we're doing quite a bit. I just wanted to pick out something from what the Honorable Minister said, and that is how our financial institutions responding to the challenges that our traders are currently facing. The regulators, that is Bank of Uganda, for the tier 1, 2, and 3 institutions, put out some guidelines. And so did Uganda Microfinance Regulatory Authority, which is the regulator for the tier 4 financial institutions. And the key to the regulations was, how are we going to restructure our customers' facilities? How are we going to offer them repayment holidays? And then they also gave exceptional circumstances that we should consider, which basically speaks to the challenges that individuals are facing currently. We have got people who have not worked for, I think now we are 46, 47 days into the lockdown, and people do not have source of income, but they have also borrowed. So institutions have responded. Could authoritatively speak about where I work. We have offered customers repayment holidays. We have proactively reached out to them, and those who have also experienced challenges, we have actually been able to process. I think they're now nearly 1,000 repayment customers, and you clearly see that when a customer is signing this document and saying, I'm interested in this repayment holiday, there is a relief just physically from what you see in the customer, because they now know that one of the outflows or pressures on their income has actually been relieved. So, Honorable Minister, I think you'll be happy to note that the financial institutions are responding. It is very critical that we do that, because even if it is a pressure on us as an institution, we know that for the development of this country, it is better that we allow individuals to have disposable income and be able to meet other basic needs that they have at the moment. But as an institution, in terms of extending, I'll limit myself to lending because we do not mobilize deposits. We are not permitted to mobilize deposits. The lending, we have reduced the amount of lending that we do because nearly all sectors of the economy have been impacted adversely. So we cannot keep lending the way that we had been lending. We have reduced the pressure that we put on our sales teams because we are cognizant of the fact that we will probably just be building an atomic bomb that will blow up in the faces of so many if we continue lending as if nothing has happened. So the critical thing that we have done on the lending side, reduce the amount of lending and only extend these lending services to those businesses that are still thriving. In this current lockdown, not everyone is struggling. There are businesses that are actually thriving. Yesterday, I saw a group of fuso truck drivers who had put out an advert saying that, we can now start transporting for you to Barara your foodstuffs and things like that. This is an opportunity. Those who are smart enough, who are ambitious enough, who do not have a lockdown mentality, are actually seeing opportunities come out during this lockdown that will transform their businesses in this time.
A couple of more, you can hear he's actually saying that they have reduced the pressure on the lending, but he didn't mention about the interest.
The interest rates.
The interest, Sam, we need to understand, you've said you've reduced on the pressure on your team, but we need to know, what about the interest on the government employees? Have you reduced the interest as well?
Hello? Oh, sorry, I had lost a bit. Yeah, so we have not adjusted any interest rates at the moment, because what we have done right now is offer payment holidays for our customers. That is the adjustment that we have made.
Thank you, sir.
Adjust to reduce the pressure that an individual has on their monthly income. So we've given a holiday of up to 3 months. That is tentative because in our projections, we foresee that the government, which has the situation under control right now, will release release the economy in less than 3 months. But
thank you.
If that does not then we shall definitely these holidays to a much longer period.
Thank you, sir. This is very interesting, Honorable Minister. While other banks are going down, Leshego is one that actually gives a lot of loans to government employees.
Yes.
There is a tax holiday, but the interest stays. You understand that?
Yes.
But let's just talk to Mr. Dmitry here, the Regional Technical Advisor, United Nations Capital Development Fund. Mr. Dmitry, you lead an organization in Uganda that is at the center of supporting financial inclusion in Uganda. You recently partnered with Safe Border for market women to be able to go cashless. How are you ensuring that the people who don't have access to these technologies are not left behind?
Good morning, and thank you for the invitation to join this exciting discussion this morning. UNCDF, as part of the United Nations in Uganda, participates in the flash appeal that was issued about 10 days ago on behalf of the UN in Uganda to address the negative impacts of the coronavirus. And one of the important themes in there is immediate economic support and digital innovation. And the immediate economic support section of it aims at providing additional relief and recovery measures to micro, small, and medium enterprises. I believe we should distinguish between micro, small, and medium, and also between the formal and informal sectors, because structurally they are quite different. The informal sector is 90% micro enterprises and with a very, very low resilience. If you think about the operating cash coverage for the informal sector, for about 70% of those enterprises, the cash coverage lasts for less than a month. They can operate with what they have for less than a month. For the formal sector, which is mostly small, there are actually no micro enterprises, and not so many large enterprises, incidentally. The cash coverage is about 40%. It's also quite precarious, I would say, but still, as you can see, much better than in the informal sector. So when we are talking about the informal sector, we should, at this point, focus primarily on the injection of liquidity into the sector. Also because, as the colleagues previously explained, they don't have the same access to the same financial facilities as the formal sector enterprises. They cannot easily borrow, they cannot benefit from loan restructuring or loan holidays. So for them, it becomes much more challenging. One of the proposals here is along the lines of social protection, and what we have been discussing as part of this big package of the UN flash appeal was a one-time cash transfer to informal sector workers of 150,000 Ugandan shillings. That would not amount to much. If you think in terms of the entire GDP, that would be just about 0.6% of the entire GDP, but that would definitely help the informal sector to stay somewhat afloat. The digital technology innovations that you have mentioned, the initiative that we have with Safe Border, can be rolled out and can be expanded to other sectors, because the initiative with the Safe Border also concerns, as you may know, the market traders. So it's not only helping border riders to remain on job, but it also helps market traders by linking them to the customers and helping them to raise their income in a situation when the physical access of the customers to marketplaces is limited. And we can think along the same lines for other sectors of economy where predominantly informal sectors are engaged. When we are thinking about the formal sector, then I believe it is a complex of the measures to help them restructure their borrowing obligations, as well as helping them to identify the changes and adjustments in their current business models that would allow them to reduce operating costs and essentially to improve their bottom line. I believe that the role of the government is very important here, and we heard just from the banking sector that we cannot expect any changes in the interest rates. And this is incidentally understandable, because the banking sector is an industry as any other industry, and they are concerned about their business performance indicators. And unless there are some guarantees and some support coming from the government to financial institutions, we cannot really expect some substantive changes in the terms and conditions of finance coming from that sector. It is a crisis that we are facing all. It is a crisis that concerns all of us, and the government should play a very important role in addressing various aspects of this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But there is a question I would like to ask before you leave. Your organization has authored a report who drafted how we had a chance to look at. The warnings are very there. Can you tell us more about the Uganda-Busia impact? Because the report is very worrying.
The impact on?
The business impact survey report. Can you throw more light about it?
Oh, yes. Let me also say a few words about the business impact survey that we recently conducted in partnership with the College of Business and Management Sciences of Makerere University and with the support of the Uganda Revenue Authority. That survey targeted formal enterprises, small and medium, and it is national representative. So when we look at the expected impact of COVID-19, what we see is that over 90% of Ugandan enterprises expect a loss of revenue this year as compared to 2019 by at least 10% or even more, up to 30 and 40%. And the sectors that expect a particularly large drop in their revenues include accommodation and catering, health and social work, manufacturing, mining and quarrying, and production and supply of electricity, heat, gas, and water. And these are primarily, when you look at the composition of the industries, then you see that these are primarily capital intensive and quite often also technologically advanced industries that are concerned about their revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Dimitri. Because of time, I should cut you short, but it's an honor to have you. And of course, the ministers had all this feedback. Of course, you had the first one from Okaya, and the minister is going to respond to all these bits.
What has been done.
Yes, what you've actually done. Please, financial deepening, stay on hold there. Opio Colin, please hang in there. Right now, we are joined by the minister, the State Minister for ICT, Honorable Peter Ogwang. Honorable, you are the Minister of ICT in the time of COVID-19. That is something that is strong. We are promoting the use of technology in the process of doing work. How do we ensure that no one is left behind, especially the ordinary people?
Hello?
Yes, Honorable.
Yes, not getting you clearly. Can you repeat your question?
My question is, we are in a time where the technology is the only way to work and possibly get groceries to our home. How do we make sure that the ordinary Ugandan is not left behind?
First of all, as you are aware, one time recently I wrote and entirely I was appreciating the role of the media, and I'm happy that within the media, part of the use of ICT is all dependent on how you people have been very useful in terms of the fight against this COVID. It is also true within our ministry, who have come in with new technologies, which we have been using as far as stay home while working is concerned. One of the technologies which I want to thank our development partners is the Zoom. With the UNDP, through our ministry, was able to provide government officials with the Zoom, whereby you can see most of us, even we can attend parliamentary proceedings using Zoom. This is an initiative under the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. Beyond that, we have also worked with other partners. For instance, within our agency, we came up with different codes. For instance, NITIU has brought on board quite many innovations. Number one, the verification of the stickers, car stickers. As you're all aware, most of us would want to be in town. We forge stickers. And at the end of the day, we are able to work with the police, verify the stickers. Then the issue of learning. It is also an initiative which we are using. It came up through an application with the ministry, still under NITA, which is also helping our children who are learning online. Furthermore, we have also improved on our own use of email and internet availability. We want to thank the telecommunication companies. Most of them have been able to cut down on the cost of internet, which are all helping to provide services to our people. So as far as IT is concerned, I want to say we are continuing to work with every part as far as the fight against this pandemic is concerned.
Thank you.
And that is what I can say for now.
Thank you so much, Honorable, and thank you so much for the work you're doing there. The Right Honorable Amelia Chambade, you've heard all these, the feedback from the UNDP, the report you've had from Dimitri. It's worrying. How are the businesses going to run? Are we going to bounce back? What is the strategy? How are we holding up?
Yes, we're definitely going to bounce back. When you look at the businesses that are functional, most of them have embraced e-commerce. And as you listened in to him, you can see that most of the transactions are operated through mobile money. That is, total financial inclusion now has come on board. And when it comes to the users of internet, of late, they've discovered that we have the number of people, for example, in Uganda were 11 million who are using the internet, but now they've gone up to about 14 million in the internet. So people are ordering their goods from abroad, on the internet. So they have realized that they don't need to travel to go to China to bring their goods. So as the cargo is still flowing, I know there are a bit of challenges. You can see that the goods are still coming in. So businesses are still operating. They're operational. Their premises might be closed, but the businesses are operational. So that is e-commerce. That is a lesson we've learned. And I can see that it will go to another level. As people open businesses, they realize they don't need spaces, but then they can even work from home. Two, what are we doing about the informal sector?
The informal sector.
The informal sector, let me cite an example of the Boda Boda. The Boda Boda in Uganda are 1 million now. But you will be shocked to learn that the ones who own those cycles themselves are only 400,000. The others are owned by the middle income earners. You find a middle income earner with about 30 Boda Bodas in town. So he expects this cyclist to bring 10,000 shillings home per day. So I'm appealing to some of the people in those sectors, for example, the Boda Boda, diversify. Let us do something else. What can we do? Government has introduced a program called Emyoga. And this Emyoga, they're looking at you in your cluster. if you
As
are
border.
yes, if you are border, if you are caterer, if you are saloon manager, we had, in fact, Honorable Kasolo moved around the country trying to organize them. So implementation will be after the lockdown. And what does it mean? That every cluster in that district is given 30 million as entandikwa, as a base for.
Is this a liquidity approach you're trying to use?
Yes, a liquidity approach, but they'll borrow and return.
Okay.
Borrow and return.
Through the Myoga
So,
approach.
yes, so that is a stimuli. Another stimuli to the informal sector is operational creation. It's functioning out there at the grassroots, giving out seedlings, inputs, and production is going on. And another one is MTAC, Management Training Advisory Council. It is training, and it is going to train 100 youth in every constituency, and they're already training, they've started. And after that, they give them inputs. In fact, we started a program.
But are the trainings free of charge, Honorable?
Yes, they're free.
Wow.
They are free. And in fact, they trained vendors here, and some of them have got very good jobs. I want to bring stories here of the vendors who have been very successful. We are targeting 500 soon after the lockdown, so that we get them off the streets, and they train them in skills, catering, saloons, and others. Electricity. Government is looking at reducing energy to 5 cents. From it has gone down to 8, but industrialists are still tight.
Yes, it is.
So it will go right down to 5. So we are targeting 5. So you can see that those are some of our plans that will redeem our people who are just coming back into
Honorable,
business.
while we're coming back, there are worries online here. People were saying that some arcades, even in the work that they're still closed, the proprietors are still demanding for rent. One of two that were quoted was Qualicel and Yamaha Center, and there is another cluster of people, the Insenene people. They're saying it's the season. How are they going to deal with this in the wake of curfews at night?
Well, on the issue of rent is such a complex situation because rent is a very private business.
Indeed.
And these are people who have borrowed to be able to put up those malls or those properties that they're demanding rent for. But the president has appealed to them to be more humane, and flexible. And some of them actually have been flexible and have allowed their tenants to pay when they start working, operating. So it is not an issue that you can implore rent people to, but you as tenants, you could find an amicable relationship between you and your landlord and negotiate for terms of payment, which of course are not possible now because you have been closed. But that takes us back also to the saving. How have we been saving? Are we in circles?
But isn't this the time where government has to come in and talk to
and circles, yes. This is the time. We have been advocating for circles, for cooperatives all these years. And it is also another way of generating revenue. That once you're in circles, once you're in groups, that is what we're doing in a ministry, encouraging people to form circles. But now we need them to save. Although they've been operational, transport has been a problem. People have not been able to go and get their savings, but they've been going on mobile money. So e-commerce also
is still running.
Absolutely.
Joining us for this is Rashmil Pillai, the Executive Director of Financial Deepening Uganda. Thank you so much for being a part of this, Rashmil, and thanks for holding in there. Well, the crisis hits the most vulnerable people, the hardest in Uganda, if I should say, in their health and economic situation. What are your projections what do they look like for the most vulnerable in times like these, especially when it comes to financial inclusion?
Thank you, Andrew, and good morning, everyone, viewers and panelists and honorable ministers. Thank you for having me on the show. So coming to the question of how has this impacted the most vulnerable, we did an analysis, and that's going to be made public based on the largest data set, which is FinScope. And what it said is that 3 out of 4 people, even before COVID, were struggling to pay their bills on time. So that gives you a sense of their economic resilience. We also did an analysis on their ability to cope with such a systematic shock. And what it shows is that more than half of the adults in Uganda will not be able to sustain their lifestyle with just 1 day of lockdown. By the time you hit day 15, and we're already way past day 15, 81% will not be able to sustain their current lifestyle. What that means is they will start making cuts. They will stop paying loans, and thankfully loans are being renegotiated because of directives from regulators. They will stop cutting down on expenditure, and then and they will start eventually drawing down on very limited savings. Therefore, their resilience becomes extremely compromised. What is very important to note, Andrew, is that this COVID-19 is not gender agnostic. It affects women more than men. Because if you look at the statistics nationally, men have 6 times more savings at a median than women, which means that when it comes to drawing down on savings, women will be left more vulnerable. Traditionally, if you look at the poorest people, say 40% of the poorest adults in Uganda, most of the time, people are saving in semi-liquid assets like goats or cows, cattle. And during a lockdown, it is very hard to sell semi-liquid assets. So where do you get that cash flow from? And these are real concerns that people are struggling with. The Honorable Minister mentioned informal transport. A lot of the border guys in Uganda, as she mentioned, don't own, but there are lease-to-own companies that help border guys and informal transport sectors own their assets. But these are primary breadwinners, and they have on average 5 people per household, depending on them. And when we started calculating, Andrew, we realized that 23% adults in Uganda will lose 100% of their income during a lockdown. This is not to say that people will not innovate. People have already, as Dimitri and the Honorable Minister of Trade has mentioned, figured out digital ways of connecting themselves between logistics companies and their customers. So people will innovate, but the question is, it will leave them significantly vulnerable, and therefore our fiscal and monetary policies will have to think of how is this intervention by the government truly going to impact the person on the street. For if we have if we have say UMRA or the Bank of Uganda giving support to financial institutions, which they need to do, what is the role of the financial sector to ensure that it reaches the bottom of the pyramid? As the minister said, most of the people, if you look at 40% of the poorest, 40% of the middle income people, they all work with SACCOs. But so how can the financial sector encourage liquidity in SACCOs, encourage support mechanisms, and meet people where they are?
Interesting. I'm sure the minister's captured a couple of these. But joining us again for this conversation, Innocent Kawoya, we're having you for the digital Innocent Kawoya, we are having you for the Digital Impact Awards. You always do reports on financial inclusion. What have you found in the latest report that you've made?
Thank you, Andrew, and good morning, everyone. I'm glad that the Honorable Minister has spoken about so many things. And one of the most key things is talking about the digital space, which is something that we cannot ignore any time now and going forward. Hi People, the company that runs the Digital Impact Awards Africa, is keen to promote secure digital financial services because of their vital role in promoting financial inclusion. Financial inclusion, for many times and for many years, speaks to so many things. Today, it speaks to the vulnerability that Rashmi has been talking about by the many people and whatever everyone is facing. But it also speaks to the realities of what we're able to save, the small bits we're able to save as an economy and as the ecosystem. About 3 weeks ago, High People released a study on the life-saving capacity of digital financial services during this COVID-19 situation. And we found out that over 104 million people, and 80% of whom were actually women, were saved from contracting the COVID-19 virus because of their ability to use digital financial services to do basic transaction, buy food, and do all that kind of stuff. That is very important today, that maybe at least even when everything is lost, our people are able to save life to start with. But secondly, ours and the studies we do and the corporations we relate with is to speak to the broader impact of what the situation is and what the digital ecosystem is able to provide. First, our theme is maximizing the digital dividend. And I'll start by saying today and going forward, it will be very wrong for any leader in an organization, in government, to delay a decision in adapting the usage of technology. Why? The first reason is you are increasing the chances of having a very high digital debt as an organization, because for many reasons, many investments have been made in technology and in the digital ecosystem, and many organizations and the government itself has not been maximizing the opportunities and the abilities that there is that we can be able to optimize and be able to serve our people better.
Okay.
When the Honorable speaks about offering like registration of companies, value addition and other things, being able to do purchases from China and all that using the digital ecosystem, it speaks to so many things. But then the end point is, as we talk about maximizing the digital dividend, then there comes something that helps us as an economy.
Thank you,
Uganda
Innocent.
today speaks of connectivity of a mobile signal that covers up to about 90% of Uganda. And the world generally speaks to about 95% of coverage of the mobile signal.
Innocent, thank you.
And
I'll cut
the
you short.
investors in telecommunication, the banks and all that are not able to all be in every place. So
Innocent, I'll cut you
what
short.
should we be doing right now? You know?
Innocent, I'll cut you
So
short
what
because of
we're
time.
supposed to be doing is think of how to limit expenditure
Innocent,
by using
I'll cut you
technology.
short.
And what we have to do is speak about interoperability.
Okay.
Think
Innocent.
of ways of cooperating and collaborating as organizations and be able to maximize the use of technology to serve our people better.
Innocent, let me cut you short because of time.
We can be able to have.
Innocent, I'll cut you short because of time. Let me talk to Mr. Colin Agalinda. Thank you so much for hanging in there. I really, really appreciate your patience. Now, you deal with SACCOs in the rural areas. Can you give us an estimated casualty list on SACCOs? Those are the village savings, loan societies that have been affected heavily because of COVID-19, Colin.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and panelists and honorable ministers present. I should say, yes, SACCOs and community savings and credit groups operating countrywide in the community areas mainly target individuals that are in some of the remotest parts of the country. I should say that the impact on them certainly is big. The real opportunity that COVID presents is to step up the message of financial literacy, because most of the community members that we work with that are members of SACCOs and members of community savings credit groups are people that are most vulnerable in a state like this, where, as Rashmi rightly pointed out, they are going to lose a lot of income during this time, and they are going to be relying mainly on their savings to survive. So the message of working with them to save so that they can buffer in the future the kind of situation where you have no work, and then you have to rely on what you have put aside. So I think the issue here is to increase the financial literacy message so that people can have knowledge, skills, and increase their resilience capabilities through having savings. Otherwise, the real impact is going to be that Those that have loans are not able to repay them in time. The savings are being drawn down during this time because of increased household consumption with limited income. And this can be very, can distort the institutions themselves by leaving them with very big portfolios at risk and a lot of default. So the emphasis here is going to be on individuals and on financial literacy of individuals, with the savings message as the most important thing for them, because it will show that those who had a bit of savings to rely on during the time they were not working will certainly bounce back better than those that ultimately had no savings at all. So back to the communities, the message that we go with during this COVID time and the post-COVID time is the importance of savings as a buffer that can see you through unforeseen emergencies when they come, as has been the case with COVID. Thank you.
To the rest of the team. Thank you, Dimitri. Thank you, Rashmil. Thank you so much. Of course, Colin there. Thank you so much, Leshego. It was an honor to have you. And let's share this content more with our Ugandans online and to read more of the research from Dimitri, from Leshego, from Financial Deepening, of course, from the SACCOs. Let's get this conversation running. So I'll let you go, and the Minister will respond to the rest of the issues. Honorable, you've had a conversation.
Yes.
I'm sure you're shocked. Rashmil was releasing a lot of data and research and how the numbers are going to hold up post-COVID-19. It's there.
It's there, but I can see a brighter future in all this. Because there are opportunities that have emerged from this lockdown. Yes. Number one is that Bubu has been one of the policies that have cushioned our economy. Because when you look at all the products that we have in the supermarkets, all the products that we're using, all the products that we are trading across border, because there's still trade going on, these are products that have been made here. And that was from the outcry of supporting the local content. And when we went for the local content for Bubu, most factories went into maximum production. They even improved on their lines because they knew they had a market. But we should not run away from the fact that Europe will take some time because it will be under recession to penetrate. So we are privileged that there is still cross-border trade going on across borders within the region. We have COMESA, which is also another high trade destination for us. We have African Continental Free Trade Area, which is dying to take our fruits, vegetables, and all the goods that we're producing here because they know they no longer have a market in Europe and in China. It will take some time for those areas to open up.
When you talk about cross-border, it worries me about the truck drivers.
That is now something that's a problem that has emerged, but we have found a solution. We are saying that we are testing the truck drivers from the border, and then we monitor them at and we have identified designated stations for them to stop. And at every station, we make sure the district task force is aware about those. We know we have given them these.
There is a surveillance running.
Yes. So they monitor this driver, all his movements. And if he's taking a break like a short call, should not exceed 15 minutes. Goes somewhere for a short call and goes. And then staying overnight, it's fully monitored. So it has definitely increased our rating as far as COVID is concerned. But I want to thank Minister of Health that I think they're really on top of it. And I think within 2 weeks or so, it would have subsided, because now we are working closely with Kenya. We are working closely with DRC. TZ, we have some challenges, but at least the borders, they allow us to test their products. But also the other opportunities I would like to bring out for you is that the coffee prices have gone up.
Coffee.
They have gone up, and we'll be able, and coffee is still going out because you find that there was, they've gone up by 6.9%. So we'll be able to sell our coffee, and most of our farmers are actually coffee growers. There is a demand, a great demand for horticultural goods from horticulture, especially from Africa. Even Europe, You know, we are still exporting to Europe. So there's a great demand for horticulture goods, and people have actually invested in those. That is agriculture. Another one is that we have a demographic dividend of the youth. And what we're looking at is skilling. Skilling, we are going to go for aggressive skilling in all spheres.
All in.
The president had already started with that initiative before, but we feel that these institutions that do skilling should roll out to the grassroots. That's why I'm calling out to the youth. Instead of going for rural-urban migration, let us stay in our areas so that we can benefit from some of these programs that are coming in through government. And mark you, Uganda has become a very powerful destination, and it's going to attract R&Ds, research and development, to come and see how have we maintained this resilience when we compare ourselves to other countries. It's going to be a tourist center. Ask me why. Because all these millionaires out there, they're going to run away from their traumatic. That is when WHO opens. They would want to run away from their traumatic areas and come to Uganda, where there is fresh air, where is fauna, where is everything's, where is this resilience? Because it has given us a name. So they'll come for FDIs, those are jobs. They'll come, of course, for tourist reasons, that is revenue. So we anticipate that as much as we are going through this for the time being, I can see the future as a brighter.
The biggest challenge, Honorable, when you look at the tourism sector, it was hit hard. I think it could possibly come back to life maybe next year in March, even post-election.
It will be gradual.
What plans do we have for the tourism sector to get back on their feet? Because the hotel industry is all dead. There is a load. It's one of the sector that is worrying to get back the pace it's going to come back, and there is a lot of challenges when it gets to tourism sector.
First of all, we have to have discounts for our airline tickets,
Okay.
to attract them. 2, we must have an incentive package for the hospitality industry.
True.
As a stimulus, because they've been hit really hard. 3, we must look at revenue taxation deductions in some of the areas.
Thank you.
Because there is no way people are going to, when you are emerging from this, you are going to meet all your tax obligations within the next. So they should be a phase, a grace period, whereby maybe the taxes are minimized, or give a grace period where people wouldn't pay taxes maybe in the first 3 months. But that is something we are looking at as Ministry of Trade as our proposal. And we also have to take into consideration that so many innovations will be commercialized, and that will mean jobs. For example, sanitizers. We never thought of making sanitizers here.
Indeed.
We were exporting them from China, made in India, made in China, to UAE. But now we are going to commercialize them. There are so many. There are 14 companies that are already making sanitizers. What does it mean for an ordinary Ugandan? Jobs, revenue, of course, and skills, but also materials, because we'll be purchasing ethanol from the from some of these companies that make sugar. Alcoholic people who are making alcohol will definitely diversify and look into making sanitizers. Masks is another area, and yes. And of course, other innovations in how to control COVID and all that.
Honorable, when we speak about that, it brings me to the issue now of the arcades. Many people are saying that much as, especially Abantu Bawansi, the layman, all they're saying is that the arcades could possibly be opened in the work where there are phases of government that is releasing and all this. Can you try to explain the trajectory of not opening arcades vis-a-vis the cargoes that are still coming in? Because one could have a retail or a boutique, and they could possibly want to go back to work, and they can have all these measures in place, but still the government doesn't want to open.
When you look at the malls and the kids, I think you've been there. You see how crowded they are. The danger of COVID is still very strong. We cannot say, because now they've started even discovering COVID amongst our communities. You had in Masindi, you had one in Chot, in Masaka somewhere, you had one in, so, and these people have contacts and they relate with other persons. So the danger is still out there. We should not forget that we are still fighting COVID. You know how crowded malls can be. You know how crowded arcades can be. So we are not saying that they are closing them forever, but at least it should be a gradual process. But at the moment, it is still premature because the doctors are still trying to find out where COVID is exactly. And if you open up, you will not tell them that you only have one person in a shop. What about the corridors? You know, all these corridors are packed. You've been there. I've been there. I go there. I always go there to see my people. Sometimes disguised, sometimes as I am. But you know, you just have to rub
shoulder by shoulder.
Yes, shoulder by shoulder. There's no space. As you're passing, fast, somebody's carrying something, and then this. So these areas that are crowd pullers are still hazardous. So I'd like to appeal to Ugandans. We are concerned about the economy. You remember, even me in the beginning, I was a bit.
It was tough.
Yes, we are really concerned, but we are more concerned about their lives. We need them alive. Yeah, the economy eventually will make money, but what is important is your life. We want you alive. So the arcades are not. So there was this confusion also. I had people went to Seka Market and all that.
Yeah, yesterday we had that.
No, but that is an arcade. Seka Market is an arcade. So if you're talking about spare parts, it should be a shop in an outlet in the outskirts, whereby someone can control the movement of persons in and out of the shop. So this is to protect you, but not to frustrate you.
Honorable, there are a couple of questions. If you could allow me to sample some of those from online. Many people on Twitter, they have their worries, especially when it gets to COVID-19 and their businesses. First things first, there is one here, Mohereza Tal says, can the minister help us explain more how we're going to get loans that are either interest-free or something of the sort? Then thank you so much for standing for the commoners. That is Chagawa Fred. And then this one is saying that thank you so much for returning the money, but the inclusion, especially the young women who had just started businesses, how do they bounce back with regards to this? That is Sandra Letio. And economy inclusion. Traders are operating in Kwalisel, Yamaha Center, have been locked out for failure to pay rent for Apple. Honorable Minister, we need a response to that. That is Haruna Chiyemba. They've been locked out. Then the Bubu policy, much as it's applicable, the value to addition, how do our people add value to addition so that Ugandans can now start to believe in their own products? Yes, those are some of the ones I can actually capture.
Yes, I'll respond to some. Loans that are interest-free.
It's a tricky one.
It's a tricky one, very tricky. Remember, that person offering you a loan is also doing business. The loans that have a low interest rate are the ones in circles. Those are quite low. So you can establish circles, put your together, pull your money together, and then start borrowing from that circle. But even those who are in the districts, who have remained in the rural communities, youth livelihood, the loans are lower. Youth livelihood fund, it is alive, it is functional. Women livelihood fund. But the problem is that everybody wants to come to the city. But there in the countryside, you can join these, you can form yourselves in groups and benefit from that, except that the youth have defaulted. They have actually defaulted from these programs and not paid back and disappeared and not. But I think it also goes with training. We need to do more training to make them aware. Financial literacy and how they can manage these programs. So circles, women livelihood, youth livelihood, and then also joining these associations like Uganda Small Scale Industry, like UWIL, Uganda Women Entrepreneurship. Though these can help you to benefit. For example, like the young women, to benefit from the women finance. There is the Women Finance Bank. So they also offer low interest rates. So I know omuntu wansi will say, how can I subscribe?
Yes.
To nagena ntia mchibina nga sina na zendia.
Collateral.
Yeah.
Collateral.
Ntia mchibina nga sina na zendia. Collateral. Na ye, you can join some of these organizations. Sometimes you don't need collateral. You're just a member. You pay some little money per year as a member, and they hope to lobby for you. But then another issue that you asked, Bubu.
The value addition.
The value addition.
Honorable, if you go to a supermarket and you find our tomato sauce, and you look at another brand from South Africa or any other country, you most definitely would go for the other because of the packaging and all. How are we helping our own traders here, especially even our enterprises, to add value addition that their branding, the packaging and the produce can really compete on the international and regional markets?
Well, in all this is that, first of all, we must give you skills to be able to know what you're doing. Two, we are still looking at UDB. It's going to offer lower rates, especially for Uganda Development Bank. It's going to offer lower rates for the small and medium enterprises. But we are also looking at incentives, other incentives that should be offered by government for people who are dealing in, who are complying with the BUBU policy. So these are some of the programs. As I said, these are lessons we've learned during this time. That there are certain things we are not doing right, or we are not trickling down to where we should be. So we'll be able to look out for some of these incentives and support some of those groups, but so long as you are formal, because some of you are doing these things in your garages. This is what we found out with the maize.
Wow. That
the maize, most of it which is milled, is actually not formal. Some are doing it in their backyards, some are doing them. So this has also been a lesson for us, that the informal sector is broader than we anticipated. And formalization is key, and that is what we are going for. We are going for.
Okay.
Qualicel.
They were locked down, they were demanding the rent for Apple. And the owner locked them out, and some of these possibly have clinics in there or something of the sort.
I think
rent.
Yes, rent. Rent, Qualicel, we just have to engage Qualicel and talk to him from a humane point of view to reconsider his decision. Because as much as he needs money, but these are people who haven't been working all this time. And how does he expect to get money when he does not allow them to open? Because some of them, for example, like services, the services are supposed to be open. When he does not allow them to open, to make money for him or to make money to pay. So this is not something I can speak about authoritatively, but from a humane point of view, we can engage.
As you're winding up, Honorable, it's a season for Nsenene. And some tweet came through and someone said, how do we navigate? Because it's usually at night and we have curfew and it's hand to mouth. At least the markets are open. I could get my incident.
But the advantage with Nsenene is that once you have the strong light, you have the drum and the channel from where they drop from, you can come and harvest in the morning.
Okay.
You don't have to harvest the whole night. You can come and harvest. What you do, you come very early and you harvest your Nsenene. And because it would have collected, you should get away from this collecting from the ground. That is also not healthy.
We should upgrade.
Yes, let us organize. You know, you are organized. You know, the Nsenene people. Mumanye chokola. Otekawo ekitala kyo n'otekawo n'omugogo gw'ebbaati ne pipa kati bw'ojja enseenene zo ojja zisangamu oziggyemu oziteeke mu kuti ogenda otunde.
Okay. Well, there you have it. That is the Right Honourable Amelia Chamba. Do you have any last word to the Ugandans as getting ready for the next phase of possibly coming out of the lockdown?
First of all, I would like to thank the President for guiding us through this. And I would like to thank the Ministry of Health for the implementation and also guidance in this. But most of all, Ugandans for being resilient, responsive, and for complying with the SOPs. But the media is a special case. Because without the media, we wouldn't have responded, we wouldn't have got the messages, we wouldn't have known how dangerous this disease is. But I would like to assure you, Ugandans, that we'll be able to recover from this economically. Once we open, after another 2 weeks, which is now 13 days, I think.
Yes.
Another sector, there'll be another level of opening. Then after that, of course, there will be another level of opening. It will be gradual. We can't do it at all. There's someone who called me and told me, why don't you open up like Italy? And I asked, but how many people has Italy lost?
I know.
In fact, she laughed when I asked it. So I know very well the potential of Uganda is immense. We have a lot that we can tap into. Of course, the demographic dividend of the youth. You are there, you are powerful, you are strong. We can equip you, we can empower you. Macro and microeconomic policies, political and economic stability is key, visionary leadership. And if all these are exploited, we'll be able to spur sustainable growth in our economy.
There
and
you
with
have
the powerful media that we have here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, the Right Honourable, and for taking time. Those who have been a part of this conversation online, it's very humbling and it's gratifying that you've been part of this. Please note, if you're one of those small-scale businesses or one Ugandan who would like to recover after COVID-19, please note the Uganda Development Bank is one of those that has been highly mentioned by the Minister. You need to take that. Then secondly, SACCOs, tap into these SACCOs. The women, there is a women empowerment bank, something of the sort. Research about this, get to know how best you can rebound.
Finance.
And well, that brings us to the end of Morning at 10 TV today. I'm Andrew Chamagero, and shortly after me, Farida Nakazwi is coming up with Mwasuza Mche. Good morning.